Tears streamed down Sarah Bennett's face as she gripped the antique gold necklace in Judy Sheindlin's courtroom. Across the aisle, her sister Rachel's eyes burned with fury. Their mother's final gift had torn their family apart, leading to this moment. Neither sister imagined they'd fight over a family heirloom in court, but here they stood, their relationship shattered by a precious piece of jewelry that held secrets neither expected to discover. The Bennett family home stood silent now, 3 months after Elizabeth Bennett's passing. Inside, Sarah Bennett ran her fingers across the dusty mantel, pausing at each family photo. The images told a story of happier times, birthday celebrations, Christmas mornings, and countless Sunday dinners where laughter filled every room. At 35, Sarah was the younger of the Bennett sisters, always living in the shadow of her seemingly perfect older sister Rachel. Rachel Cooper, née Bennett, had married young and successfully built her own real estate empire in their small Connecticut town. At 38, she carried herself with the same grace and poise their mother had always possessed. Elizabeth Bennett had been proud of both her daughters, but everyone knew Rachel was the apple of her eye. Or so Sarah had always believed. The sisters' relationship had been complicated from childhood. Rachel excelled in academics and athletics, while Sarah pursued art and music, choices their mother struggled to understand. Yet Elizabeth never failed to wear Sarah's handmade jewelry to special occasions, including the watercolor-inspired bracelet Sarah crafted for her mother's last birthday. Elizabeth's final months changed everything. As pancreatic cancer ravaged her body, she spent hours sharing stories with Sarah, who had moved back home to care for her. Rachel visited regularly, managing medical appointments and finances between her busy schedule. The sisters worked together then, their differences set aside for their mother's comfort. The gold necklace appeared during those last weeks. Elizabeth would hold it for hours, lost in memories of her own mother wearing it during family celebrations. The piece wasn't particularly valuable in monetary terms, a simple gold chain with a modest pearl pendant, but its significance to the Bennett women spanned 3 generations. Sarah's grandmother had worn it at her wedding, passed it to Elizabeth for her special days, and now it was meant for the next generation. Elizabeth's final wishes regarding the necklace remained unclear. She had whispered something to each daughter separately during her final days, words that would eventually pit sister against sister. Sarah claimed their mother pressed the necklace into her hands one night, whispering that it belonged with the daughter who truly understood its heart. Rachel insisted Elizabeth promised it to her firstborn, following family tradition. The first cracks appeared at the funeral. Rachel spotted the necklace among Sarah's personal items and demanded its return. Sarah refused, citing their mother's final moment with her. What began as heated whispers erupted into accusations of theft and manipulation. Cousins chose sides, aunts attempted mediation, but the rift between the Bennett sisters grew deeper with each passing week. Now, the family heirloom that once symbolized their mother's love had become a source of bitter division. The sisters who once shared secrets and dreams could barely look at each other across a room. Their mother's legacy, meant to bind them together, threatened to tear them apart forever. Neither sister could have predicted how a simple gold necklace would lead them to Judy Sheindlin's courtroom, where family secrets would finally come to light. The gold necklace first entered the Bennett family in 1945, when Harold Bennett returned from World War II with a precious gift for his young wife, Margaret. He'd traded his silver pocket watch to a French jeweler for the delicate piece, its single pearl representing the purity of their love. Margaret wore it every Sunday to church, her fingers often touching the pearl during prayers for her husband's safe return. In the decades that followed, the necklace became intertwined with every significant Bennett family moment. Margaret wore it when she brought Elizabeth home from the hospital in 1955, the pearl resting against her heart as she cradled her newborn daughter. Throughout Elizabeth's childhood, the necklace emerged from its velvet box for christenings, graduations, and holiday gatherings. Young Elizabeth would sit at her mother's vanity, watching Margaret fasten the clasp with practiced care, dreaming of the day it would be hers. The tradition continued when Elizabeth married James Bennett in 1980. Margaret placed the necklace around her daughter's neck before the ceremony, whispering words of wisdom about love and family that Elizabeth would later share with her own daughters. The pearl caught the light as Elizabeth walked down the aisle, carrying the hopes and dreams of 2 generations. When Rachel was born in 1986, Elizabeth wore the necklace to the hospital. 3 years later, she did the same for Sarah's birth. As the girls grew, the necklace marked their milestones. Elizabeth wore it to Rachel's spelling bee championships and Sarah's art show debuts. The sisters took turns trying it on during dress-up games, neither realizing how fiercely they would one day fight over it. The necklace's monetary value never matched its emotional worth. A professional appraisal valued it at merely $800, noting its simple craftsmanship and modest pearl. But its true value lay in the moments it witnessed. Elizabeth had worn it to James's funeral in 2010, the pearl absorbing her tears as she said goodbye to her beloved husband. She'd worn it to Rachel's wedding in 2015, beaming with pride as her eldest daughter began her own family story. Sarah's connection to the necklace grew strongest during quiet evenings with her mother. Elizabeth would tell stories about Margaret, describing how she'd touched the pearl while reading letters from Harold during the war. Sarah sketched the necklace countless times, capturing its essence in watercolors that hung in Elizabeth's bedroom. She noticed how the gold seemed warmer against skin, as if the metal retained the love of each woman who wore it. Rachel's appreciation for the necklace stemmed from its role in family traditions. She documented every event where Elizabeth wore it, creating meticulous photo albums that tracked its appearances at Bennett gatherings. She researched its history, tracing the French jeweler's mark to a small shop in Normandy. The necklace represented her heritage, a physical link to the grandfather she never met. In Elizabeth's final year, the necklace rarely left her nightstand. She would hold it during her treatments, drawing strength from its familiar weight. The pearl had dulled slightly over 75 years, but she insisted its imperfections made it more beautiful, like the way time weathered but strengthened family bonds. Both sisters remembered different stories about the necklace. Sarah recalled intimate moments, her mother fastening it before Sarah's first piano recital, promising that music mattered more than mathematics. Rachel remembered ceremonial occasions, Elizabeth straightening it before family portraits, insisting on maintaining proper appearances. These contrasting memories fueled their current conflict, each sister believing she understood the necklace's true significance. Now, as the Bennett family heirloom sat in an evidence bag in Judy Sheindlin's courtroom, its simple gold chain had become anything but simple. 3 generations of love, tradition, and family history hung in the balance, waiting for a decision that would determine not just the necklace's future, but the future of the Bennett sisters' relationship. The morning Sarah found the necklace changed everything. She'd been clearing out Elizabeth's bedroom, sorting through decades of memories, when she opened the bottom drawer of the mahogany dresser. Wrapped in a silk scarf lay the golden chain, its pearl gleaming softly in the morning light. Sarah's hands trembled as she lifted it, remembering her mother's whispered words from those final days. Rachel arrived an hour later for their weekly sorting session. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floors as she entered the bedroom, stopping abruptly at the sight of Sarah wearing the necklace. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Rachel's voice came out sharp and cold, demanding Sarah remove it immediately. According to Rachel, their mother had explicitly stated the necklace would follow tradition, passing to the eldest daughter. Sarah refused, her usually soft voice finding unexpected strength. She described that quiet night 2 weeks before their mother's passing, when Elizabeth had pressed the necklace into her hands, whispering about understanding its heart. Rachel's face flushed red. She accused Sarah of manipulating their mother during her weakest moments, taking advantage of the medication's effects on Elizabeth's mind. The argument escalated quickly. Years of unspoken resentment bubbled to the surface. Rachel brought up Sarah's artistic whims and instability, moving from job to job while Rachel built a successful career. Sarah countered with accusations about Rachel's absence during their mother's illness, too busy with real estate showings to handle overnight care. The sisters hurled words like weapons, each statement designed to wound. Their Aunt Patricia attempted mediation the following Sunday. She gathered the sisters in the family room, where Elizabeth's photograph watched from above the fireplace. Patricia suggested sharing the necklace, alternating possession between holidays and special occasions. Rachel scoffed at the idea, insisting family tradition couldn't be split in half. Sarah clutched the necklace tighter, declaring she wouldn't surrender her mother's final gift. The situation deteriorated further when Rachel involved their Uncle Robert, a retired attorney. He sided with Rachel, citing the precedent of family heirlooms traditionally passing to the firstborn. Sarah countered by calling Elizabeth's hospice nurse Maria, who remembered Elizabeth's frequent comments about Sarah's special connection to family treasures. The Bennett family divided into factions. Holiday gatherings became battlegrounds of cold shoulders and whispered accusations. Rachel's husband Thomas tried reasoning with both sisters. He reminded them of childhood memories, Rachel helping Sarah with math homework, Sarah designing Rachel's wedding invitations. But the necklace had become more than a piece of jewelry. It represented their mother's approval, her final statement of love. Neither sister would back down. The breaking point came during their cousin Amy's baby shower. Rachel noticed Sarah wearing the necklace and confronted her in front of the entire family. Sarah defended herself, voice rising as she talked about her time caring for their mother. Rachel knocked over a glass of wine in her anger, the red liquid staining the cream carpet like blood. Guests watched in horror as the Bennett sisters squared off, 30 years of rivalry exploding into view. The next morning, Sarah received the certified letter from Rachel's lawyer. The formal language felt like a final betrayal: legal proceedings, rightful ownership, family precedent. Sarah's hands shook as she read the document, tears blurring the words. The sister who had braided her hair and defended her from schoolyard bullies was now suing her. Elizabeth had raised them to believe family meant everything. The gold necklace was supposed to represent that bond, 3 generations of Bennett women connected by love and tradition. Instead, it had exposed the hairline fractures in their relationship, splitting them apart like a hammer striking crystal. Their mother's final gift, meant to preserve family unity, had become the weapon of its destruction. As Sarah stared at the legal notice, she remembered Elizabeth's words about the necklace's heart. There had been something else in her mother's expression that night, something Sarah hadn't fully understood. Now, facing the prospect of defending herself in Judy Sheindlin's courtroom, Sarah wondered if her mother had foreseen this moment. Perhaps the true test wasn't about who would possess the necklace, but what the sisters would learn about themselves in fighting for it. Rachel approached the lawsuit with the same methodical precision she applied to her real estate business. She transformed her home office into a war room, pinning a timeline of the necklace's history across an entire wall. Each family photograph showing Elizabeth wearing the precious piece was marked, dated, and annotated. She spent hours interviewing elderly relatives about Bennett family traditions, recording their statements about firstborn inheritance rights. The family Bible became Rachel's secret weapon. She discovered handwritten notes from their grandmother Margaret, describing how the necklace should pass through generations. The yellowed pages contained a detailed account of Harold's sacrifice to obtain it, emphasizing the importance of preserving family order. Rachel's hands trembled as she photographed each page, remembering how Elizabeth used to read these same passages during holiday gatherings. Meanwhile, Sarah's preparation took a different path. She gathered her sketchbooks, filled with drawings of their mother wearing the necklace during quiet moments. Each illustration captured Elizabeth's essence, the way she touched the pearl while lost in thought, how she smiled when telling stories about Margaret. Sarah also found old birthday cards where Elizabeth praised her artistic soul, noting how Sarah alone inherited Margaret's creative spirit. Maria, the hospice nurse, proved invaluable to Sarah's case. She remembered specific conversations during Elizabeth's final months. According to her written statement, Elizabeth frequently mentioned Sarah's deep understanding of family treasures, how she saw beyond their monetary value. Maria documented Elizabeth's clarity during these discussions, specifically noting they occurred during morning hours when the medication's influence was minimal. The sisters' preparation processes forced them to revisit their mother's bedroom. Rachel arrived early one Tuesday, seeking Elizabeth's jewelry box for documentation. She found Sarah already there, photographing the dresser drawer where she'd discovered the necklace. They worked in uncomfortable silence, the air heavy with unspoken words. Both sisters noticed Elizabeth's favorite perfume still lingering in the air, but neither acknowledged their shared pain. Thomas, Rachel's husband, privately contacted their cousin Amy, hoping to broker peace before the court date. Amy revealed Elizabeth had confided in her about the necklace 3 months before her passing. But Amy's recollection only complicated matters. Elizabeth had expressed concerns about both daughters' expectations. The information left Thomas wondering if either sister truly understood their mother's wishes. Sarah uncovered an unexpected ally in their mother's best friend, Barbara. The elderly woman remembered conversations with Elizabeth about changing traditions, adapting them for modern times. Barbara wrote a detailed account of Elizabeth questioning whether birth order should determine inheritance, specifically mentioning the necklace during these discussions. Her statement undermined Rachel's traditional approach but stopped short of confirming Sarah's claim. As the court date approached, both sisters submitted their evidence to Judy Sheindlin's office. Rachel's file contained decades of documented family history, witness statements supporting tradition, and a complete provenance of the necklace's passage through generations. Sarah's evidence spoke to emotional connections, including Elizabeth's hospice records, personal artwork, and testimonies about her special bond with their mother. The sisters' paths crossed one final time before the hearing, at the bank where Elizabeth kept her safety deposit box. They'd scheduled appointments an hour apart, but a delay forced them to wait together. Sarah noticed Rachel's hands shaking as she sifted through papers. Rachel caught Sarah wiping away tears while examining old photographs. For a moment, their shared grief overshadowed their battle, but neither could find words to bridge the gulf between them. The necklace now rested in a secure evidence locker, awaiting its day in court. Its golden chain and simple pearl had survived a world war, 7 decades of family celebrations, and countless quiet moments. Now it would endure its greatest test, the power to either heal or permanently divide the Bennett sisters. As both women made their final preparations, they couldn't help wondering, what would Elizabeth think of her daughters now? The courtroom fell silent as Sarah and Rachel took their places. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, catching the pearl's gentle gleam as the bailiff placed the necklace before Judy Sheindlin. The sisters avoided eye contact, Rachel straightening papers before her while Sarah twisted a tissue in her hands. Their Aunt Patricia sat in the gallery, her face etched with worry as she watched her nieces prepare to battle. Rachel presented her case first, her real estate experience evident in her polished delivery. She outlined the necklace's history, emphasizing its traditional passage through generations. Her voice remained steady as she described Margaret's written instructions in the family Bible, the documented ceremonies where the necklace transferred from mother to eldest daughter. Rachel produced photographs spanning decades, each showing Elizabeth wearing the necklace at formal family gatherings. Judy Sheindlin's penetrating gaze never wavered as she questioned Rachel about Elizabeth's final months. Rachel's composure cracked slightly when describing her last conversation with their mother. Elizabeth had been tired that day, Rachel admitted, her medication schedule making communication difficult. Still, Rachel insisted their mother had confirmed the necklace would follow tradition. Sarah's testimony carried raw emotion. She described nights spent caring for Elizabeth, their quiet conversations about family history and the true meaning of inheritance. Her voice trembled as she recounted that final evening, when Elizabeth had pressed the necklace into her hands. Sarah revealed sketches she'd made of their mother wearing the necklace during ordinary moments, reading in her favorite chair, gardening on Sunday afternoons, teaching Sarah to bake using grandmother Margaret's recipes. The atmosphere shifted when Maria, the hospice nurse, took the stand. She described Elizabeth's increasing preoccupation with the necklace during her final weeks. According to Maria, Elizabeth had expressed concerns about family traditions sometimes overshadowing personal connections. She remembered Elizabeth's clarity during morning conversations, particularly her words about Sarah's special understanding of family treasures. Judy Sheindlin's questions cut through the emotional testimony, targeting inconsistencies in both sisters' accounts. She noted Elizabeth's failure to document her wishes formally, questioning why such an important decision remained verbal. Her sharp observations made both sisters squirm, exposing the deeper wounds beneath their battle over the necklace. Barbara's testimony introduced an unexpected dimension. Elizabeth's best friend described conversations where Elizabeth questioned whether strict adherence to tradition truly honored the necklace's meaning. Barbara revealed Elizabeth's growing concern about her daughter's relationship, her worry that old customs might deepen existing rifts rather than heal them. The courtroom tensed when Judy Sheindlin examined the necklace herself. She noted the clasp's wear, evidence of constant use rather than ceremonial wearing. Her questions turned personal, asking each sister about their last happy memory together before the dispute. Rachel recalled Sarah's artistic guidance during her son's nursery decoration. Sarah remembered Rachel defending her career choices to disapproving relatives. Both sisters wiped tears during these recollections. Thomas's testimony proved pivotal. Rachel's husband spoke carefully, sharing his observations of Elizabeth's final months. He described finding her one morning, holding the necklace and looking through Sarah's childhood drawings. Elizabeth had spoken about changing times and changing traditions, he revealed. His words carried extra weight coming from Rachel's own family, causing her to pale visibly. As final arguments approached, Judy Sheindlin's questions zeroed in on the heart of the matter. She asked each sister what they believed their mother valued more, maintaining tradition or preserving family bonds. The gallery watched Rachel's professional facade crack as she struggled to answer. Sarah's response came in a whisper, admitting she'd sometimes worn the necklace late at night, trying to feel closer to their mother and understand her final choice. The weight of family history filled the courtroom. 3 generations of Bennett women had worn that gold chain and pearl, each adding their own memories to its legacy. Now its future hung on Judy Sheindlin's interpretation of Elizabeth's final wishes, a decision that would impact not just the necklace's ownership but the sisters' chance at reconciliation. Judy Sheindlin sat straight-backed in her chair, her expression unreadable as she reviewed her notes one final time. The courtroom remained absolutely still, the weight of anticipation pressing down on everyone present. Sarah and Rachel sat rigid in their chairs, neither daring to look at the other as they awaited the decision that would determine not just the necklace's fate, but the future of their relationship. Judy Sheindlin began by addressing the physical evidence. She noted the careful documentation Rachel had provided about family traditions, acknowledging the historical precedent of the necklace passing to the eldest daughter. She commented on Sarah's artistic testimonials and the hospice records, recognizing the special bond formed during Elizabeth's final months. But then her tone shifted, and she pulled out a previously unmentioned envelope. The letter inside had arrived at her office that morning, sent by Elizabeth's attorney with explicit instructions about timing. As Judy Sheindlin unfolded the paper, both sisters leaned forward, recognizing their mother's distinctive handwriting. Elizabeth had written this letter 6 months before her death, when her mind was still sharp and her intentions clear. Elizabeth's words filled the courtroom, her voice almost tangible in the silence. She wrote about watching her daughters grow apart over the years, seeing how their different paths had created a distance she feared would only widen after her death. The necklace, she revealed, had become her final attempt to bring her daughters together. Elizabeth explained how she had deliberately given each daughter a different version of her wishes. To Rachel, she had emphasized tradition and birthright. To Sarah, she had spoken of emotional connections and understanding family heritage. She had done this knowing her daughters would eventually have to face each other in a formal setting, forced to truly listen to each other's perspectives. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as Judy Sheindlin read how Elizabeth had recognized her younger daughter's deep appreciation for family treasures. Rachel's hands trembled as she heard her mother's acknowledgement of her dedication to preserving family traditions. Elizabeth's letter praised both daughters' strengths while gently pointing out how they had allowed these differences to divide them. The true twist emerged in Elizabeth's final paragraphs. The original pearl from their grandmother Margaret's necklace had been lost years ago, during Elizabeth's own difficult time after their father's death. She had replaced it with a nearly identical pearl, never telling anyone because she realized something profound. The necklace's true value lay not in its physical authenticity but in the bonds it represented. Elizabeth's final wish, revealed Judy Sheindlin, was not about who would own the necklace. Instead, she had left specific instructions. The necklace should be donated to the local history museum, along with the full story of the Bennett family. Her daughters would serve as joint custodians, responsible for sharing their family's legacy with future generations. Judy Sheindlin looked directly at both sisters as she delivered her verdict. She would honor Elizabeth's wishes, but with one condition. Before the necklace could be donated, Sarah and Rachel would need to write its story together, combining Rachel's meticulous historical records with Sarah's artistic perspective. They would have 1 month to complete this task. As the implications of their mother's plan sank in, both sisters finally turned to look at each other. They saw their own shock and grief reflected in each other's eyes. Elizabeth had orchestrated one final lesson about the true meaning of family inheritance. The necklace was never meant to be a prize for one daughter to win, but a bridge to rebuild their relationship. Judy Sheindlin concluded by reading Elizabeth's final lines. "My dearest daughters, this necklace survived a war, crossed an ocean, and witnessed 3 generations of Bennett love. Its greatest purpose was never to be worn, but to remind us that family bonds, like the strongest gold, can be tested but should never be broken. Together, you are my greatest legacy." 3 weeks after Judy Sheindlin's verdict, Sarah and Rachel sat together in their mother's kitchen, surrounded by family photos, documents, and Sarah's sketches. The familiar scent of Elizabeth's favorite tea filled the air as they worked on their joint project. The story of their family necklace had grown beyond a simple timeline, becoming a tapestry of memories that revealed how deeply Elizabeth had understood both her daughters. Rachel brought her organizational skills to the project, creating a clear structure that traced the necklace's journey from Harold's wartime sacrifice to its future place in the museum. She found herself pausing over Sarah's drawings, seeing their mother through her sister's artistic eyes, the quiet moment she had missed while focusing on grand occasions and traditions. Her own photographs gained new meaning as Sarah pointed out small details. How Elizabeth's smile reached her eyes whenever both daughters stood beside her. Sarah discovered strength in Rachel's methodical approach to family history. Together, they interviewed relatives, uncovering stories about their grandmother Margaret that neither had known. They learned how she had once pawned the necklace to pay for Elizabeth's medical bills, only to work extra shifts at the diner to reclaim it 3 months later. These revelations helped them understand why Elizabeth had been untroubled by replacing the original pearl. The necklace's power lay in the sacrifices it inspired. The local museum curator watched with growing appreciation as the Bennett sisters transformed their mother's legacy into an exhibition that would touch future generations. The display would feature not just the necklace, but the full story of its impact on 3 generations of Bennett women. Sarah's artwork would hang alongside Rachel's meticulously preserved photographs, showing how tradition and emotion could complement rather than conflict with each other. On the day they completed their written history, the sisters finally talked about the years of misunderstanding that had grown between them. Rachel admitted her envy of Sarah's ability to capture the heart of family moments, while Sarah confessed her long-time admiration of Rachel's strength and determination. They recognized how Elizabeth had seen the best in both of them, understanding that they needed each other's perspectives to truly honor their family's legacy. The necklace now rests in a custom display case in the museum's Community Heritage section. Beside it, visitors can read the story of Elizabeth Bennett's final gift to her daughters. Not the necklace itself, but the wisdom to understand that family bonds matter more than physical possessions. Sarah and Rachel take turns giving monthly talks about their family's history, each sister adding her own insights to their shared story. They wear matching gold chains with small pearl pendants, modern pieces they chose together, reminding them that while traditions can evolve, family love endures.